So I'm out here to show you the sad state of my broadleaf evergreens. And I wanted to talk about hardiness. What you're looking at here is a ceanothus, almost completely devoid of leaves. So what happens is, or what happened, this is the third year of La Nina, which generally results in colder, wetter conditions for us, but this year it ended up being dry conditions. And when we have these Arctic incursions of cold air, when it moves down the continent from Alaska or northern Canada, North Pole essentially, what happens is the wind, or the cold starts moving down, and it runs along the mountains, and we're on the west side of the mountain, so we're protected by it. As it's heading down south, there is a gap in the mountains, and that is where the Columbia River is, and the Columbia River Gorge funnels that cold air, and so you get this cold air, what we call outflow winds, that's pushing out towards the ocean. And it comes barreling through the Columbia Gorge, and when it reaches the entrance on this side of the mountains, it just spreads out everywhere. In the gorge, they can have extreme winds, 100 miles an hour sort of thing. So the closer you are to the gorge, the more powerful the winds you are. So northeast Portland probably gets the worst. I'm southeast. And so I don't quite get it as bad, but I still do get it, and it comes right up my road, running parallel with the front of my house. And what happens is that air is cold and dry. So this cold, dry air comes whipping through, and we had, I think, about 60 hours of 35 to 45 mile per hour winds, probably a little bit less at my location. Cold, dry air, and what's happening is with these broadleaf evergreens, it's desiccating them. It's pulling all the moisture out of the leaves, and the ground itself is frozen. And especially during the one day, we never went above freezing, so the ground remained frozen, and the plants are unable to replace the water that they've lost, and result in the death of the leaves. So like this particular plant should come back. It should, flush out new growth. That's what I would expect to see. But let's say on this palm, so this up top, the newer growth is okay. And on the other side here, it's more green. But right here, this is where it got the worst of the wind. And this is never going to recover. So either I can leave these on or I can trim these off. I will probably trim them off. But if we come around to this side, a little more green, where the wind was not hitting it as badly. So some plants like the callistemon, not bothered, the strawberry tree not bothered, but what's happened is that wind almost creates, plants don't feel the wind chill, but that desiccation with that amount of cold, what happens is it causes more damage than you would get. So 19 degrees is what we were at, and 19 degrees wouldn't cause as much damage as what we're seeing, but 19 degrees with that wind does. So even some of our zone 7, lower zone 8, like that ceanothus, and even some of the zone 7 plants like my metapanics are showing damage where they normally wouldn't. So it does have an effect, and it basically, in a way, creates a colder, almost like a colder temperature. And so you're dropping the hardiness by about half a zone. The owner of Zara Plants wrote a blog about this on his post, and it makes perfect sense. Like when I look at these leaves, I think they're freeze dried, and that is literally what happened. They were freeze dried. They were freeze and then they were dried. So kind of sad looking. I'm sure by midsummer everything's gonna look really nice and fresh. It is nice to have some plants that can tolerate it. Washingtonia robusta cannot. The manzanita seem to do pretty well. Even my regular ceanothus looks bad. The olive trees did quite well. And the oleanders did okay. A little bit of discoloration, but not too bad. The pineapple guavas, surprisingly, are being quite cooperative and hardy for me now that they're established. Here's some more of that damage from the high winds. Even these ones are discolored. Metapanics, zone 7 plant. Took a lot of damage. This one as well. And then obviously the Fatsias, but they tend to take damage each winter, so I can't say that that's all that unusual. But look how yellow the Trachycarpus fronds are. They've never been this yellow before in winter, not these ones back here. And then something I've never seen before is this Eucalyptus neglecta. Has never shown damage even at a small size. And look at what the wind did. Just completely desiccated these. Never seen that before. Now, this is a pretty big one. It's been snapped off from ice, but I've never seen, even the new tender growth, I've never seen harmed in the cold weather, so not good stuff.